Welcome to Western Herald Headlined with some of your favorite Western Herald editorial board members talking about some great stuff going on over at Western Herald. How you guys doing today?
Good.
Doing good.
I'm Kayla Lambert. I'm the managing editor.
I'm Jack Mennicke. I'm the sports editor.
And I'm Aidan Ralko. I'm the multimedia editor.
We got a fun group of us here today.
This is an array of
none of us have anything to do with each other, really.
No, but
our sections are so entirely separated,
Mm-hmm.
so you guys are getting an interesting perspective today.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to start?
I can start if that's what we're feeling.
I
I'm
love
the sports
that energy,
editor,
Jack.
so I'm gonna go for sports, of course, today, because I always do news, but
That's
today
what
I'm
he
gonna do
does.
sports. Nope, always sports. Okay, let's start with football. Football is actually doing pretty hot right now. They're 3-0 in the conference. That's undefeated, and they are first in the MAC right now. So that's first place in the MAC. They're ahead of Eastern Michigan, who's 2-1, Toledo 2-1, Buffalo 2-1, and Ohio 2-1. So they've beaten Buffalo, Ball State, and Akron, and then they play Kent State this weekend. So Ball State and Akron are at the bottom of the division. Ball State's 1-2, and Akron's 0-3. So those kind of are expected wins for the Broncos. But it's good that the Broncos are getting those wins when they need them. Aidan, what do you think about those wins for the Broncos?
Those were good wins. I was at the Akron game.
Yeah.
That was a fun game. A little
Yeah.
bit of hail in that one, but it was an exciting watch. And they've just got, they've got a very special offense.
Yes.
And sometimes they say the best defense is a good offense. And that's for sure because we don't have a very good defense, I feel, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I do think that's where they are lacking. But when that offense gets on the field, they've got a lot of versatility, I feel. A lot of different things they could go for. Blake Bosma's tight end, correct?
Yep.
He had a big game against Toledo, record-setting game against Toledo. So you've got him, you've got Sambucci, you've got
Womack.
You've got Womack. Yep. Big to have him on the team. Just a lot of different people who can chip away at a defense in different ways. So yeah.
That was some good analysis from
That was really good,
Thank you.
Aidan.
multimedia editor.
Are you
Thank
sure
you.
you're not the sports editor?
I love Bronco football.
And I'll back him up
Yeah.
to his point. In this MAC play that the Broncos have gone through so far, 45-42 was the first game. So high offense.
Mm-hmm.
Not very much defense. 34-24 against Akron. Same thing. And then 48-41. And like you said, the Broncos offense is rolling. Hayden Wolf has been doing very good. The rushing game is really the strong point. Jalen Buckley and Jaden Nixon are leading that core, and the offensive line is bringing them to the finish line. Those two are kind of sharing carries, I would say. And then they have Zahir Abdus-Salam
wild
as
card.
well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a fun rushing core for the Broncos, and they have made the most of it this season. And should I keep going? I'll keep going. We're gonna move on though to
You're
hockey.
so good at it. I feel like we have to encourage you.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm gonna go to hockey now though.
Right.
So they are also 3-0 on the season,
Huge.
similar to the MAC standings for the Broncos football team, not the overall record, but they're 3-0. The hockey team. They've beat Ferris State twice, and then Bowling Green. And then they had a little exhibition against York State. They beat them 8-0. So, safe to say, they're looking pretty good so far.
Mm-hmm.
Competition is nothing to write home about, but it's good to see, again, that the Broncos are getting those wins when needed. Scores for those games were 4-1, 5-1, and 6-2. So, the offense, similar to the football team, is rolling. We have some freshmen scoring. Zach Nearing, he has 5 goals. He's a freshman, and he's leading the team. He's tied with Grant Slukinski, So they both have 5. Grant's a transfer student. Zach's a freshman. So new faces making it happen for the Broncos.
And that's good to see, considering kind of the turnover, I guess you'd say, with the team recently.
For sure.
It's good to see that the new faces are taking advantage of the fact that they're new and not really you're not seeing a huge time where they need to settle.
Yeah.
Yes.
And to that point, in the first game, I was at that game.
Mm-hmm.
4 freshmen scored in that game. So it was all new faces scoring in that one. And that's important, as you were saying, because the Broncos lost a lot of talent last year to the NHL draft. So, yeah, it's important that those guys are getting out there. Moving on. Sorry, Kayla?
No, I was just going to say it's it's interesting because like these are fresh faces and they like there is still room for them to get better too.
Exactly.
Like
Yes,
there is like a freshman, maybe 4 years. Like who knows how much better they'll get. So
Exactly. Some good promise.
Yes, I think that's a big thing for this hockey team. There's a lot of promise. They're very young. Obviously, some of those guys might not stay the whole time because of the draft, but safe to say the Broncos are in pretty good hands. Gosh, man, the Broncos are doing good this year, all around. All
They
around.
are.
I'm clicking through my tabs and I'm seeing 0 losses everywhere.
Mhm.
The Broncos soccer team is 10-0-5, and they're 2-0-3 in the conference. They're on a 3-game winning streak right now. So yeah, I mean they're cooking too.
Mhm.
And I say this I feel like I say this often, but the last time they lost a game was last season's home opener.
Yeah.
whoa.
So
It's a long stretch.
that is a long.
That's a lot of soccer.
Yeah, that's a lot of soccer. I think I think it's 38 games right now without a loss.
Wow.
Oh, gosh. It's actually
So that's
pretty impressive.
That's pretty impressive.
Imagine having that on like your record.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No.
Like being
Mhm.
able to say that.
Yeah. And that it's just I feel like
Yeah.
they're striding right now. The confidence is
The men's soccer team are the only undefeated team left, right? In the NCAA, I think.
high in the NCAA. I would have to check.
I
I can cross check.
believe I saw a TikTok
Okay,
or something.
all right,
like
we're
that.
gonna trust Aidan on this
Right.
one.
I don't.
He knows what he's talking.
I wouldn't.
Even when we are a news source, guys.
You know, I
so
take that-
all of this with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I take that
Yeah.
with a grain of salt. I don't remember what conference they were talking about,
It
but
was a conference.
it
I'm
might
sure.
be.
yeah,
It could be our. I mean, we're undefeated everywhere, so it could be our conference.
I mean,
Yeah.
like regardless, it's still amazing.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
and they were
it's believable too.
dancing in the TikTok.
Nice.
Yeah,
And that
So-
makes it all the more believable. I feel.
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah. I think I was sold because they were hitting.
if they're, yeah, no, yeah.
I was like,
that's-
of course.
If
they're
you want to
dancing.
convince me to do something, do a dance for
exactly,
me. You know,
exactly.
Okay. Moving on. I have 2 more sports. Sorry, guys. I'm kind of.
it's okay.
No, just,
hogging.
just hurry it up.
You're so
I was
good.
kidding.
Oh, wow.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
things are getting aggressive in the podcast.
Okay.
studio.
Well, yeah. I guess there's beef now, but no. So, again, undefeated in the conference is the women's soccer team.
Wow.
So everyone's
Yeah.
like, there's food to go around for this Broncos
yeah,
program.
food to go around.
I love that term.
They're on a 2-game win streak. Yeah, I mean, everyone's looking good. This team looks good as well. I will take Aidan's advice and hurry it up, though.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay, last sport, I promise. Volleyball. They're struggling a little bit more than the rest of the folks,
Mhm.
but
Yes.
the turnaround could be happening
Okay.
as we speak. They're on a 3-game win streak.
There we go.
They're now 6-4 in the conference.
okay.
So they're 10-11 overall, but 6-4 in the conference.
Yeah.
I think early on in the season they struggled. They lost Maggie King,
Yep.
so that was a big factor for them.
Mm.
And they've also played pretty good competition early on in the season. I
Yeah.
think because last season they went 18-0.
Yeah, you're gonna have a tougher
So,
schedule
yeah,
after.
they're kind of gonna set you up
Mm-hmm.
the next season.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they want as a program.
You
to
gotta
get that.
flex the muscles.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
If you win too often, I fear
yeah.
there's no
Mhm.
spice.
Yeah. It's like
Right.
a goldfish will grow to the size of its tank.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah,
I
what
love
a
that
reference
analogy,
that is.
Aidan.
they kind of outgrew their tank last season, let's say,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
now, you know.
Yep. Okay, I love that.
But that doesn't say anything about their talent. You know what I mean?
No, yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Speaking of the talent they played so early on in the season they played number 15 Tennessee twice. They played number 13 Kansas and number 24 Marquette.
Yeah.
So
That's a lot.
they've been through the ringer this season, and it's good to see them coming back in conference play. As I said, 3-game win streak. They've just beat Eastern Michigan, Northern Illinois, and Akron, and then
There we
they
go.
play Akron again. It'll already happen by the time this comes out. So I guess everything I'm saying is kind of going to be wrong by the
Yes.
time this comes
Yeah.
out.
A
but
lot of these games have happened the weekend before this podcast comes out because it
Just-
comes out on Monday.
yeah, just
But that
disclaimer.
should
now.
raise intrigue.
Yes.
If you're listening to this and you
Yes.
want more information, head
Yep.
over to westernherald.com.
yes.
And you
We
can
will have
find out
stories, yep.
about these games.
Yeah.
We'll
Good
have stories
point,
about all the
Kayla.
games. You can check those out, read about them, see what went wrong, what went right for the Broncos. But
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, that's what I got for sports.
Jack, do you have a favorite sport to report on?
That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
I would say basketball.
Basketball.
Just because
Wow, okay.
that's kind of my my sport that I've
Yeah.
been involved with the most of my life, and it's the sport I watch the most. So
Dang.
I think it's just because it comes easiest to me,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
according to basketball.
Yeah.
But I will say hockey is also really fun to cover because that team's
It's a fun
just,
sport.
yeah, it's just the stadium's electric.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everything about being there feels professional and real.
Yeah.
And yeah. So I would say basketball and hockey are my top two.
Nice. Solid choices.
Yes.
Aidan, what's going on with you?
Yeah. So on the multimedia front, I guess I'd say, we had a new video go out. It would be this past Thursday when this podcast comes out. It was a little bit of a different kind of video. Not so much like coverage of an event or anything, but kind of the topic of the video is misinformation. So we got to speak with a communication professor at the school, Sue Ellen Christian. Yep. She's great. She gave us a lot of her time. It was like a 30-minute interview, and it was a lot to work with. She gave us some very good stuff, and it was all pretty interesting. So, that video kind of dives into what is misinformation and how it ends up getting spread, what are the factors behind that, and also a little bit on how you can try to detect it or combat it in a way, if you will. And also some healthy ways on how you can encourage others to do the same. So that was a fun video. I worked on that with Marco Hutter. He did a lot of the interviews. He's a very good interviewer, and he was great to work with. So it came out. It's a little different than some of our other videos, but I think that it came out pretty well, and I'm pretty happy with the product. And it's an interesting video, I would say.
Definitely relevant, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I mean, always relevant since like the dawn of internet, but I feel like especially amidst this election, global politics.
Yep. Yeah.
Definitely an important topic.
Yeah, and that was sort of the motivation behind it. Was just because of the, what's going on currently.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, like now that video's gone up, I've also seen a lot of more major like newscasts and broadcast companies talking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's been like a wave of these companies talking about deepfakes. More of a focus on that because that's something that people are now using to like kind of throw people off the rails with the election season and kind of skew with voting. So it is it's ever more current now that more people are talking about it again.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's I for one have definitely seen, I don't know if I would call them deepfakes, but just like AI altered images.
Yes.
And obviously like if you're really thinking about it, like you're gonna realize, but like it's important to know what's wrong and what's right.
Yeah.
And make some differentiate.
And I think it's interesting too because it's easier for our generation to kind of see those things and recognize what's real and what's not.
Yep.
I say that confidently with the three of us, maybe not for some other people. Because at the end of the day, they are still kind of convincing.
Yeah.
But like you look at older generations, like I know my grandma, she does not know what an AI generated image looks like.
Yeah, and that's something that Sue Ellen Christian talked to us about is like one of the ways for combating it is just kind of, I mean, it kind of becomes a chore or a job in a way, but kind of developing that media literacy for yourself. And because people talk about there's digital natives and digital immigrants, stuff like that. Like we are digital natives because we grew up with technology and technology grew up with us. We've kind of always had that.
Yeah.
But like you said, older people like your grandma and definitely my grandparents for sure, probably, they have a lesser sense of media literacy, or I guess it would be
digital media.
I feel. Digital media, and it's less trained, I would say.
Yeah.
It's definitely an important topic, and it was great to like learn from someone who, studies it and knows a lot about it, and is like a good trusted resource on the topic. So it was a fun video to make.
Yeah,
I actually have a funny / interesting story related to this topic. I took a Sue Ellen Christian class called Media Literacy.
Yeah,
so it was literally all about that basically.
Yep.
And we had a project. There was like 10 different like misinformation components that you're supposed to pick from.
Mm-hmm.
I picked deep fakes, so it was me and two other people. and I didn't make any. I'm not that talented to make deep fakes, but we created TikTok, and we were gonna see like if we could trick people into believing the stuff that we posted, but then obviously put some kind of disclaimer somewhere in the video so that it wasn't just straight up misinformation.
You weren't actually like
right. So I just found like some like videos online. It was like I think one was like Tom Cruise telling like this really weird story.
Yeah.
And the page blew up. Like
really?
I wouldn't say for my standards it blew up. You got like 30,000 views on each video.
Oh my god.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Jack, why haven't you helped me out with the TikTok?
Well, 'cause I was posting just misinformation. I think.
Yeah.
Probably,
so what you're saying is Western Herald needs to start promoting misinformation.
Yeah, I think.
Aidan, take down the video.
Yep. Yeah.
I think we need to start deep faking like Montgomery.
Yeah.
Okay. Disclaimer: we're not going to do that.
We're not actually going to do that, folks. Don't listen to us.
But yeah, that was just something I thought.
Wow. All right, so you're versed in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Is what they'd say.
I guess so.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. So Kayla.
Yeah.
Are there any stories from this past week that you would like to go over with us?
There's a couple of really interesting ones.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to talk about a little bit of what people can see in the upcoming print. So
Yeah.
not to give away too much, I want the allure to be available to our listeners.
And the print does come out on Monday. So as this video is up, the print is also out. So
Indeed.
if you check any of your newsstands that you come across on campus.
Yeah. So a really interesting story that I'm excited to see. It's already up on the website, westernherald.com. It's called Tipping Culture at a Tipping Point.
Yes.
Talking about a decision by the Michigan Supreme Court regarding 2 new employment laws, which is a really I saw this Supreme Court decision come out before I read this article, and I was very intrigued to see what the public's reaction to it would be. It's my understanding. I'm going to read directly from this article. In July, the court ruled in favor of enacting 2 laws that have been subject to ongoing legal scrutiny. Basically, it says the proposal sought out to enact progressive reform regarding the state minimum wage and paid sick leave obligations for employers.
Yeah.
The new laws will adjust the state minimum wage rates for workers, eliminate the tip credit for restaurant employees, and expand sick leave obligations for employers.
Yeah.
And then it kind of goes into a local perspective, kind of talking to local businesses and seeing what they think about all of this.
Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting because like this has been in the works for a long time. It's my understanding that it was proposed, I think, in 2020. And it says employers with 1 to 10 employees must allow employees to accrue and use up to 40 hours of paid sick time each year, while employers of 10 or more must allow the accrual and usage of up to 72 hours each year, starting February 21st, 2025.
Yeah.
So...
What was that date? Sorry.
February 21st. So this upcoming year, like 4 months from now.
Soon.
Yeah.
So it is brought up or it has been passed?
It has been passed.
Okay.
And then additionally, beginning in February of 2025, the state minimum wage will be adjusted by the Michigan Department of Treasury based on inflation rates dating back to January of 2019.
Dang.
So they haven't come.
They're going way back.
They're waiting to see what.
Yeah, they have to kind of calculate that inflation.
Okay.
And then the rate will gradually increase each year until the minimum wage is ultimately set to $12 an hour with an inflation-based adjustment in February of 2030.
Wait.
So
they're saying it's only going to be at $12 in 2030?
That's before they start, I think. To my understanding, that's
Yeah.
before they kind of, like, add inflation in there,
Yeah.
to my
Okay.
understanding. The current minimum wage is set to $10.33 an hour.
Okay.
So yeah, interesting things happening in the state of Michigan.
I think the most interesting part about that is the tip credit thing, because
yeah,
from my understanding, that's the tip credit is when employers can kind of cut out from your hourly
yes,
to include tips in, so
Yes.
that you're just making a set. Like if you were if your hourly was $15 an hour,
Yeah.
and you made, so you're getting the hourly, but then
Yep.
you get
The tips.
tips on top of that. They take out what was from your hourly and put the tips in, so it doesn't go over 15,
Yes.
which I think is pretty messed up.
A little bit.
In my,
yeah.
I don't know, maybe I'm speaking out on that. But
So there's a different minimum wage for tip-based
Okay.
employment. I was a waitress at Applebee's when I was 18. And I made $3 an hour, somewhere around $3 an hour.
Whoa.
That's what I'm saying, bro.
That's
Again,
insane.
this was back in 2021.
Yeah.
So this is like
That's only-
mid-pandemic still.
Yeah.
But yeah, and don't quote me on that exact amount, but it was down there.
Yes.
You know,
Okay.
like
No,
it was.
and I also
Interesting.
I was a server at a restaurant,
Mm.
but thankfully we didn't have that same.
Okay.
Or at least when I started, I
Yeah.
know that I started as a host at that restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
and I would talk to the servers, and they also made like their
Yeah.
paychecks would be like $50.
Yeah.
Wow.
And taking home tips was the only. and
Right,
I don't
exactly.
think people realize that when they go into tip places.
Yeah.
Like my
Yeah.
grandparents, they used to tip like 15% when they would go out.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I started working at Applebee's, I was like, guys, you know that these people are making like pennies on the dollar right now.
Yeah.
Like they are making like Easter bunny money right now.
It's interesting because I feel like a lot of people, like, I feel like younger people, when they go out, I don't really know if these younger people have the money to leave
Yeah.
these 20% tips
Right.
Yeah.
and
That's
stuff
a
like
good
that.
point.
And I feel like a lot of, because of what's happening with like inflation and prices going up, people will evidently become a little stingier,
Yeah.
which could reflect on tips and stuff. Because I know people, and I mean, even I guess my own thoughts when I see the tip thing pop up, I'm like, oh,
Right.
I don't
When
have.
Yeah.
when it's like shoved in your face and it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Like obviously
Mhm.
at sit down restaurants when you're getting served,
Mm-hmm.
like you'll tip.
Yeah.
And you should be expected
Yeah.
to tip, but then like
Yep.
if someone just grabbed like a donut and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
pulled the
Mhm.
tip thing on you.
Well,
Yeah.
the craziest one I've seen is frozen yogurt, self-serve
Oh,
frozen
yes.
yogurt shops.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I
My
feel
goodness.
so guilty because I usually don't tip in those situations.
Yeah.
Right.
But I feel so guilty because I'm like, I don't know how much these people are making an
Yeah.
hour.
Yep.
Mhm.
I hope they're getting paid. I can hope that they're getting paid a fair wage.
Yeah.
But also, like, frozen yogurt's already super expensive.
Yeah.
Oh my
Like
God.
$8 a cup.
Yeah.
And I'm
Mhm.
like, I'm sorry, but I did it all myself and you weighed it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have that money.
I'm
so,
with, yep, I agree with that.
And that's where I think a lot of the importance behind that
Right, I was
Yeah.
gonna say
comes
that
from.
taking out that tip credit is gonna kind of
Mhm.
ease the stress on someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, and it's interesting, too, because I see a lot of people on the internet get angry at the employees. And it's like,
Yeah.
why aren't we angry? And this is so political science majory of me to say, but be mad at the system.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Mhm.
Like if you are a server and your table tips you poorly,
Yep.
don't get mad at the people that you served, because at the end of the day, they wanted to eat.
Yeah. Mhm.
And they shouldn't have to be responsible for paying your wage.
Yep.
Like
That-
it
yes.
should be the people who employ you.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
No,
This is
I
not
agree.
these are not the opinions of the Western Herald. These are the opinions
kind
of
of gone
us.
off track here, but I kind of like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But yeah.
and you
Mhm.
can read that story at westernherald.com, or you can pick it up in a print edition
Yes.
the day that you were listening or watching this.
Yes. Yes, and
Yeah.
Kayla is the mastermind behind our prints
Oh,
as the
my
managing
gosh.
editor.
It's
She
unbelievable.
pieces them together. She does a fantastic job. They always come out looking beautiful.
Thank you
So,
guys.
Go. It's truly an art,
Yeah.
honestly.
It's
For being
it's a
honest.
puzzle. I didn't
Mhm.
expect it to be like a puzzle, but it's like, okay, how can I get all of these little pieces to fit together? It's
Wow.
really interesting.
You're a master at puzzles.
Yeah.
I can't actually do puzzles. I get so bored,
Clearly you
guys.
Put the Western Herald together.
That's a good point. Maybe I just need puzzles with words,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
instead of pictures. So yeah. Thank you so much for listening and watching
Yes.
to this. If you want information on all of this and more, head on over to westernherald.com. If you're listening to this, you're on 89.1 Wider FM. And if you're watching this, you're on the Western Herald YouTube or social media.
Yes.
And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.